Well, that about says it all. For those of you who just seen my post on Facebook, crash on the A1 North. There's something up Ferry, I think they call it, or on a Friday, or Ferry Friday or something. Could well be stuck out tonight. Right, I didn't think I was going to have time to do this, to be honest, but let's face it, I'm not going very far at the minute. I had sent a Freedom of Information request to Huntingdonshire District Council asking to see the two letters they served on the Chief Constable at the time and Chief of Highways at the time, which would have been 1984. Now, this isn't new. The last FOI request went out about 2 years ago, basically asking to see the same thing, and they sent me everything else but then again, that's how we found out that they'd basically just had a meeting and just decided to charge for trading licences, and they hadn't bothered sending the letters out. So I have sent a reminder, but let's face it, that really doesn't look good for them, does it? Because if they don't have those two letters, and we've been asking for them for 5 years, they cannot charge for trading licences. And the onus is upon them to prove when they last had that permission, and of course if they don't have the letters at all, well, that's going to be a bit tricky for them as well. So yeah, definitely guilty of defrauding the taxpayer for 30 years, despite Joe Lancaster telling me to be such a silly little boy and stop bothering her with such trivialities, while she earns her £125,000 a year to run the council. Next thing, I reported, you'll remember our friend Ian Shaw from the video, the council, I think they're coppers now, or something along those lines. Well, I reported him to the detective sergeant who was handling the case against me for harassment, saying that he had basically, it was very nearly violent behaviour when he went down to see my mate with a burger van. So I reported him for harassment, and the coppers said no, it's not appropriate to investigate him. So of course I went to Professional Standards. They initially wrote back and said I couldn't make any complaints about the detective sergeant because of the case against me, and that was subsidous, so it was against the law. And I said no, I don't think it is, and I wrote them a 2-page letter to prove my point. And they then emailed me back. They said they're a bit confused about how I think he's failed to uphold the law. No mention of the harassment and distress charge, so I assume that is I'm correct in that, so they won't be investigating that, obviously, because they never do. But they were confused about how he'd failed to uphold the law when I had not got my friend's permission to make a complaint on his behalf to the police. As I said, as a matter of interest, actually, I said I've represented my friend a few times. I said we've seen suborned counsellors, we've seen a judge who ignores evidence, missing evidence, and at the end of the day, I thought any copper, you know, gets an email to say that someone's was verging on violent behaviour, I think they'd be straight off the mark, just like they were with me when Ian Sims allegedly complained about me. And they couldn't send 2 officers around quick enough. So funny that. Although I've still never yet seen these alleged letters of complaint. That said, there you go. There's proof, as far as I'm concerned, from Professional Standards that they fully approve of the council operating out with the law. So there we have it. We have a media blackout coming down from the top from David Cameron. He's guilty of obstructing the course of justice. The Chief Constable of Cambridge Police is guilty of perverting the course of justice. I don't care what they say, this is what I say, and I've got the facts to back it up. Let's face it, they haven't. Several officers of inspector level are guilty of conspiracy to commit fraud, possibly perverting the course of justice, definitely misconduct in public office, and also failure to uphold the law. And that's before we even get started on the council. This is a council, legally or not, and it's not, but when someone falls behind in the council tax, they take them to court, they send out a court summons for £240. I mean, that's nearly £250,000. And there's people out there that just can't afford it. They're on minimum wage, someone in the house loses a job, someone gets sick, yeah, no sick pay or something like that because they're hourly paid or whatever. There's people out there that genuinely can't afford it, and the council's dragging them into court and they're whacking near on another 250 quid on top of the bill. Now, I say even if that wasn't legal, because the actual cost of a court summons is £3, it's morally reprehensible. I mean, these people are the most evil, sadistic... You know, there's just not enough words to describe them, basically. There's not enough derogatory terms. And yet I'm being asked to believe that a heartless bastard like Ian Sims, who whacks nearly £250,000 on top of an already owing council tax bill which people can't afford, is going to be offended by a few nasty words in an email. I don't think so, somehow. And you know what? There's something very, very fucking wrong here, to be honest. And, yeah, tell you what, take me to court for this alleged harassment, because your first question is going to have to be, why did you send emails? Because without a guilty plea, which I'm not going to make, you've got to establish reasonable cause for your case. And whatever you do, there's absolutely nothing you can do now to stop this coming out in court about the fact that the police protect a bank council, the Prime Minister protects a bank council, who are just thieves. That's all they are, they're thieves, they're not council officers. The police involved in this, so they aren't policemen, they're just gangsters with badges. Yeah. It really is absolutely pathetic. I mean, these people are just incredible. They honestly, they have no recognition whatsoever that the law of the land applies to them. So, you know, let's just bring it on, let's get this finished, because you're obviously all guilty as sin, guys. I'm not even going to bother reporting any of these findings to the police about the FOI request or anything, because, you know, I've told them 35 times, I've told the council 70 times. They're not even acknowledging it. They're pretending like nothing's wrong at all. They're just carrying on in La La Land. Oh, please don't bother me with these silly requests, says Joe Lancaster. You know, I've got a very important job to do, earning £125,000 a year. I can't be bothered with 30 years of stolen taxpayers' money. Or the fact, Joanne Lancaster, because you're guilty as sin as well, that they don't even have permission to charge for that money in the first place. So not only has it gone missing, you know, it's stolen as well. It's incredible. So yeah, bring it on, because you've got nothing as far as I can see. And anything you do have, I'm going to take away from you.